This video is going to cover section 10.1, which begins to look at the circulatory system. And of course, we got Henrik Sedin there again, and when he's playing in a hockey game, his heart rate and blood pressure are probably pretty high. So looking at the circulatory system, we have three types of blood vessels. We have arteries, which carry blood away from the heart to the capillaries. The capillaries, they permit exchange of material with the tissues from the blood, and veins return blood from the capillaries back to the heart. Each of these types of vessels, have an endothelium, which is a simple squamous epithelium attached to a connective tissue basement membrane that has elastic fibers. So if you first look at the arteries, the largest one in the body is the aorta, which comes directly from the left ventricle of the heart, and it carries oxygen-rich blood from the heart to other parts of the body. The arterial wall, it has three layers, as you can see here. It's the inner layer is the endothelium, as we mentioned. Now the middle layer has a smooth muscle that contracts and relaxes to regulate blood flow and pressure. And then you have the outer layer, which is the fibrous connective tissue. Then we have arterioles, and the arterioles are just simply small arteries that branch off from arteries. As well, they have the three layers, the inner endothelium, and then the middle layer. It has some elastic tissue, but mostly smooth muscle, right? So we've talked about the different types of muscle tissue, and here we have the smooth muscle, which can contract, and that causes the blood vessel to constrict, and that results in a higher blood pressure. And when they relax, obviously, then that results in lower blood pressure. And then you have the outer layer as well, which is the fibrous connective tissue. Then we have the capillaries, so from arteries to arterioles to capillaries, and these are the very narrow blood vessels that join arterioles to venules. And we'll get to veins and venules in just a minute. Again, they're composed. These are actually just composed of a single layer of epithelium with a basement membrane. And as you can see from the diagram there, it shows you the various layers. Also, it's showing the valve in the venules. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But so it's just showing the. Well, it's showing the artery and a vein actually, and then in between there is the capillaries, which form vast networks throughout the body. And it's only certain capillary beds that are open at any given time, actually. So the capillary beds are not necessarily open all the time. And as a matter of fact, what we end up doing is the body regulates the opening and closing of capillary beds depending upon the situation of the body. For example, after eating, capillary beds that serve the digestive system are open, and then those that serve the muscles are mostly closed. And sphincter muscles, they relax to open the bed and allow for blood flow, and then they contract to close the bed to prevent blood flow. So when the bed is closed, then blood flows through what are referred to as anastomoses, and these are arteriovenous shunts, and they connect directly from arterioles to venules, and thereby bypassing the capillary beds. So capillary beds are either open or closed, and if they are open, blood flows through them. If they're closed, then the blood flows through these anastomoses, which directly connect from arterioles to venules. And once again, arterioles are just the smaller arteries, and the venules are just the smaller veins. So here you can see a diagrammatic representation of that. You can see that from the artery, you have branches from the arteries, which are the arterioles. And the arterioles would be connected to a capillary bed. And you have a precapillary sphincter, which is either open or closed. And if it's open, then the blood will flow from the arteriole through the capillary bed and then drain through the venule. If the precapillary sphincter is closed, then the blood will bypass the capillary bed and it will just simply go through the arteriovenous shunt, thereby blood just simply flows from the arteriole directly into the venule and then back into the veins and back to the heart. So exchange of substances takes place across the thin walls of the capillaries. So oxygen and nutrients diffuse out of the capillaries and into the tissue fluid that surrounds the cells. And also waste, as in largely carbon dioxide, diffuses into the capillary from the fluid surrounding the tissue cells. So some water also leaves the capillaries and the excess is picked up by the lymphatic vessels. So that brings us to veins then. Veins and venules. Venules are just simply the small veins. They take blood from the capillary beds to the heart. So veins and venules, they have the same three layers as arteries, but there is less smooth muscle and connective tissue. So not as firm or rigid. As a matter of fact, the veins will easily collapse if blood flow is low. Arteries have a much thicker wall and a much thicker layer of smooth muscle as well. So arteries tend not to collapse. Veins also have valves which allows blood to only flow in one direction, and so it only allows blood to flow back to the heart. And so what happens is the valves then prevents blood from flowing backwards when they're closed. Veins act as a blood reservoir, and since their walls are thinner, they can expand actually to a greater extent. So about 70% of blood at any given time is actually in the veins. The largest veins in the body are the vena cava. We have a superior vena cava and an inferior vena cava, and obviously the superior means towards the head, and so that drains the upper body, and then the inferior vena cava means toward the lower part of the body, which drains from the lower part of the body and delivers oxygen, poor blood back to the heart. I guess this would be just another diagram of the arteries and veins, arteriole, venule, capillary bed in between. Oh, and there's just a light microscope micrograph of artery and vein, and you can see the relative size of each. Arteries, they have a thicker wall, so they don't expand quite so much. The vein, you can see in this case, is quite distended, and that's typical of the structure of arteries and veins. So when veins don't have that much blood in them, then they will tend to just simply kind of shrink up and sort of collapse. Arteries tend not to do that quite so much. And so that'll just cover the basics of the blood vessels, and we will continue to look further into the circulatory system.